Recording has started. Go for it, Chris.
Great stuff. So welcome everybody to our Job Ready Wednesday afternoon, 3 till 4, where we're here every single Wednesday, 3 till 4 o'clock to introduce you to a different brand who's going to be giving us some key skills that we know is really important for you on your job journey and your job search. So well done for turning up. Last week, we had Danny from the Co-op. Do pop in the chat box if you were at that session and you found it useful. He went over looking into particular, looking at how you can tackle like the job description and how to make sure that you can really pick out the key information from those job descriptions to pick the right job and the right career for you. I definitely found it useful. Luckily, I've got a job, but if I was looking for a job, I think I would have found it really, really, really useful, just because I used to waste so much time looking at job descriptions, not really knowing what I was looking for and just applying to lots of jobs. So that was a really good session. And now we've got Severn Trent. I'm not going to talk too much about the company because we're going to do that in a second. And we've got a really key person who'll be talking through the slides, great friend of Pathway. And also you're lucky enough that we've got an apprentice on board as well, because we want to hear their story as well. So Max, if we flick on to the next slide.
Certainly can do.
Max is my clicker today. No, I'm joking.
Absolutely.
Max will have a big part to play in
that was one of my strengths in my profile.
No, clicking presentations. No, there we go. But so what are strengths, how to identify strengths, and looking at your own strengths. I wonder, has anybody done one of these yet? Do pop in the chat box if you have. Max, have you done the strengths profile yet in your career?
I have done several in my career, actually. Done one recently with yourselves with Capfinity. I've done one at other companies as well. So yeah, I've done a few.
Good. Well, guys, because you're on this program, you're going to have free access to our Capfinity strengths profile, and it links in really nicely because here you can see, my top strength is drive. My top weakness is detail, unfortunately. So it's really, really beneficial. It normally costs you a bit of money to get those in, but we're giving you them for free, and it's great because Severn Trent actually use strengths in everything that they do as an organization. So today you're going to learn basically like companies that look at strength-based recruitment and how they operate strengths within their company, but also most importantly, I would say, how you can look at your own strengths and really understand what am I good at? Because I think sometimes that's so difficult to actually understand. Let's go to the next slide then, Max. What would your recommendations be for communicating throughout this session?
So if you have a look, and most of you have found it already, we've got the chat box. The chat box is up there. If we ask you questions as we go along, and you want to interact with us and we ask you ad hoc things, put it in the chat box. We've got a Q&A box as well. That's for specific questions. They'll come in. We might not answer them straight away, but we will get to them. And there's actually already a really good question in there, which we need to take on board, Chris. But we'll go through that later. So that Q&A box, you can put the question in there. It will stay there and then we'll answer it towards the end. But remember, don't just wait until the end of the session to ask questions, okay? If you think about them, put them in there. We might be able to answer them as we go along as well, because it's not just myself and Chris. You'll meet our guest panelists and they'll also be able to help answer. If you want to raise your hand, you can, and that would mean you unmute your microphone and you can speak, but we know that not everybody is comfortable with that, so you don't have to if you don't want to. That's the way we communicate.
No, excellent. And just before we introduce Max, so guys, I'm founder and CEO of Pathway CTM. For those of you that don't know, started this company 6 years ago. Started to make sure that young people are better served in this economy and our society, because I think it's so important that you know where you want to go when you leave school or college. That's what we're really focused on through this program. And also this program is open to those who have recently left and are looking for jobs this summer as well, because there's opportunities through this scheme to meet employers, learn skills, but also get jobs at the end of it as well. And it's myself and Max, it's our job to basically be supporting this session today and asking different questions that you've put into the chat box and the Q&A box. That's where we'll be looking, and also asking questions that we know you might want answered as well. Max, how will you be supporting students, and tell us a little bit more about your role throughout this program?
So yeah, so as you can see on there, my name's Max. So the outreach that I do, I go into schools and run sessions, but if we think about how do I tie in with these sessions, so we're looking at strengths today. You might decide that there's some opportunities at Severn Trent you want to apply to. So then I would help you with your application in terms of understanding how better to package things together. Is your CV right? Does it have the right information on it? I can't do the job for you, but I can help point you in the right direction as to what does look good and what doesn't look so great. But also if you have an interview, an assessment center, I can support you in the prep for that, just so that you don't go into that assessment center or interview raw, not knowing what to expect or not having practiced. Before I joined Pathway CTM, I did work for Pret a Manger, the sandwich company, and I used to create and run assessment centers for them. But I did their recruitment for them as well for apprentices and other roles. So I do have experience behind me. When you think about today's session as well, Chris, we're talking about strengths. And last week we looked at job descriptions and employability skills. This strength session today, for the students that are here and who were here last week as well, you will be able to look at those strengths now and identify them better, and identify the strengths in the job descriptions that are put out. So now you'll start to match them up. We started it last week looking at the descriptions. Now you're doing second step, you're matching it up, you're seeing those strengths. And that's the rolling, the sort of the phase that we're on. Next week, we'll add more to it. And that's where I help you. So you can get in touch, student@pathwayctm.com.
Brilliant. And Max will pop that in the chat box later on as well. Max, if we move on, because it really is, Max is the key to your career, really, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of he can really support you make that decision. But also, if you want to apply for Severn Trent or other brands, we can help you do that as well. Max, so we have a little look at the poll before we hand over to Max.
Certainly can. So let me just end the poll in here. I'm going to share the results. You go for the first question, Chris.
Great. So how are you coping with COVID? And, similar to what we've seen in recent weeks, 61% a bit up and down. I can actually concur with that. I have good days. I have bad days. I'm in a flat in London, and, sometimes it's not the best place to be. And, I think that's across the board. So if you are feeling the pinch and it's quite difficult, we know that there are better times ahead. So I think it's fair play to come on here and share that as well. And 16% of you saying you've been finding it really difficult. And again, we understand that. And if you did want to pick up with any of us after the session, you can definitely do so. Next.
Absolutely. So when we have a look at what have we got in front of us today, we got year 11, so 21% are in year 11, 53% are in year 13, which is good. They're destination years. 24% are NEET, and we're here to help everybody. And again, that service that I've offered is for everybody. So get in touch if you want help. 3% are teachers. I know that we've got some year 12s. It's not on the poll, but in the chat box, I've had some people telling me they're year 12, which is great.
No, that's good. And what are you considering for your next step? So 42% thinking an apprenticeship, Max, that's good to know. 32% still looking at university, so that's great. And 21% not sure. So there we go.
And then when we're looking at what you're hoping to get out of this session, opportunities for Severn Trent is up there. Looking at employability skills and how to match the strengths to the skills that we've talked about last week is 55%. So we're on that rolling basis, week to week, we're going forward. And let's have a look at the regions that we've got, Chris.
Yeah, Southeast is winning. Well done for Southeast for turning up to this session. Northwest second place again. Northwest second place last time. We need to try and push through and take over the Southeast for next week. But it's great to see representation from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 regions there. And then finally, Max, strengths profile. How many have done it?
So have you completed your free strengths profile yet? 29% have said yes. 71% are not yet, but they are excited to do so. And maybe some of you are new this week to this session, and you may not have had the strengths profile yet or the time to fill it out, but you will get the link. Do fill them out. But it's important, Chris, when you fill them out, what's the most important thing to do?
Be honest, right? Sorry, I thought you were teaming me up there, Max. But without further ado, we must hand over to Max. Max, it's great to have you on this session. Yeah, over to you, please.
Okay, right. Well, I'm Mags Clark. I'm the Schools Engagement and Work Experience Lead at Severn Trent. And with me is also Katie, who's one of our apprentices who started this year. She is much more interesting than I am, so we put her last so that you have to listen to me first. So if we go on to the next slide, please. Oh, we've done the poll results. There we go.
Oh,
okay, so we're going to be looking at strengths. Now, the reason that I'm very keen on this is the fact that Severn Trent does a strengths-based programme where we look at your strengths rather than your competencies when we are asking, when we're looking at our apprentices. So for instance, last year, the people who we took on, they go through a strengths-based assessment process, and we take people on because of their strengths and their behaviours, not because of their exam results. So the debacle that was last year's exam results, where nobody knew what they were getting and there was, oh, it's all gone wrong and it was all horrible. The people who had an apprenticeship offer from us had no need to worry, because it didn't matter what their results were, they still had a job. And what's more, because we're a water industry and therefore we were open right the way out throughout all of COVID, we didn't furlough anybody. It meant that those apprentices started in August, September. It was a phased approach rather than normally we'd start everybody together. Certain things we couldn't do. We normally have a lovely outward bound course that they all go on together, which obviously we couldn't do because of COVID. But we did start everybody. We've still got apprenticeships. I don't know whether Chris has already said that or whether it was pre the meeting, but we still have apprenticeships open until, and I'm looking at my wall planner, the 20th of March. So, you know, those apprenticeships will go ahead. You don't have to worry about COVID or anything. Everything went ahead last year. Everything will go ahead this year. And it will be a strengths-based assessment. So it's not to do with your results or what you can already do. It's looking at what your strengths are. So we better find out what they are. How do you know? So if we can go on to the next slide, please. Okay. Now you will see that this is taken from Alex Linley, who is the CEO of Capfinity. Can I recommend that you all fill in your Capfinity strengths profile? I've done one. We use it at Severn Trent. It's a really, really good tool. It's a really positive tool. I was really worried that it was going to say, you know, you're rubbish at this, but it doesn't. It says, these are the things you're not as strong at, and this is how you can use that to your advantage. So please fill it in. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. I couldn't believe it when Chris told me that. What a fantastic thing. So here you go. So a strength is something that you do well and you enjoy doing. When using a strength, people feel authentic and energized as they deliver a successful performance. And I'm sure you're all sitting there and you're thinking of all the things that you do well and you enjoy doing it. There are certain things we do well, but we're not that keen on. But a strength is something that you do well and you enjoy doing it. It's a powerhouse behind you. Okay, if we can go on to the next slide. So why is it important that you actually understand what your strengths are? Now, I'm not going to read these through because you can all read, but it has so much power behind it. If you know what your strengths are, you boost all of these things, and that will make you more confident. I mean, the first one is happier and more confident, but all of this is so energizing, and it means that you kind of know what you're going for, and you know that what you're going for, you're more likely to get because it's the right thing.
And Max, just on that really quickly, linking it back to last week. So you're saying there, you know what you're going for. So one of my main strengths is communication. And then we were looking at a job description last week, and it said, like, you know, a key communicator, communicate with local community groups, etc. So I was looking at that job description and going, well, I'd enjoy doing that. I would like doing that. I'm good at that. And then it made me think, yeah, actually, this is probably something that I could apply to based on me simply doing a strengths profile. Yeah.
So, you know, perfect. Fantastic example. Okay, so if we go on to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, it's very easy. I'm going, oh yes, know what your strengths are, and now I'm going to leave the room. No, I'm not. I'm going to help you identify your strengths. So if we go on to the next slide. So I've got 5 people there. Now we do need, I need Max's help here. First of all, do you know who all 5 of those people are? So we need some answers in the chat box, please.
Okay, guys, let's start putting into the chat box. Who are these 5 people? Let's have a look. So we've got Mo Salah. Yes.
Correct.
That one was a tough one to guess, right? Mo Salah. Nelson Mandela. Absolutely. Trump.
Stormzy.
Who's the and I was going to say the difficult one is the one in the middle, the lady in the middle.
That's a good one.
There's no so far.
I'm going to give you a clue. She's something to do with Severn Trent. So have a wild guess who I'm likely to have put in something. You know, who's the person I'm likely to have put in who's to do with Severn Trent? Yay! Thank you, Adam. That was great. Yes, she's our CEO. This is Liv Garfield. She's the CEO of Severn Trent. Okay, so now I just want you, they're all very different. They're all very successful in their own fields. Choose one and think of 3 strengths that you think they might have. Okay, oh, yes, we've gone on to the next slide. Thank you. So you only have to choose one of them. And when you put in the chat box, please tell us who you're talking about. So each of them has, you cannot deny they've all been successful. What strengths do they have? So what should we do? Ooh, 2 minutes. We don't need much more than that, will we?
That's fine. Would you mind just typing? Would you mind, Max, typing the name of the CEO in the chat box just for people so they can?
Oh yes, if I can. Actually,
or just let me know and I can do it.
Yeah, it's Liv Garfield, as in the cat.
Liv Garfield, I think I spelled that right. There we go. It's just
good. Yeah.
Nice to know. And because you guys are, I do get going on that, young people, students, not 30+-year-olds, I suppose. Hey, and I was just going to say, Mags, you're a FTSE 100 company, aren't you?
We are, yes.
And just for the audience, what does that mean? It's like it's the 100 biggest companies in England, right?
Yes, we are. Our shares are in the Financial Times share. Oh, I never get this right. FTSE. What's the E? Enterprise? FTSE.
Yeah,
so yeah, our shares are up there in the top 100 shares in the country. Yeah.
So we could go away today and buy a share in Severn Trent if we're particularly impressed, right?
Yes, you can indeed. Yes, and lots of people in Severn Trent have shares in Severn Trent because we have a share save scheme. So they're all Max, tied into its success.
Take us back to the other slide just so we can visualize who we're picking there.
Thanks, Max.
No worries.
So surely we've got a few in for Stormzy, and just remind us, Max, what was the question again? I'll just type it again just so it's really easy.
So all you need, I just want 3 strengths. Just choose somebody and think of 3 strengths they may have. And the reason that I've put Liv in there is because you don't know her, but you know, she's our CEO, so she must have some strengths. Because I'm not CEO, so there must be something she has that I don't. Thanks, Jaden. Can you put the person that you're talking about before you put the strength, just so that we can see? They're really good ideas, but it just helps us sort of. Okay, Liv. Oh, I like that.
Oh, they're coming through now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so they are.
Teamwork, resilience, determination.
I'll read out IBAD. IBAD, good to see you again. So Mandela has a mission drive for better quality of life, and he left a legacy behind, inspiring stuff. Lisa said, confidence for Liv, trustworthy and diligent. Fatiha has said, confident speakers who are passionate about what they do. So said for all of them, leadership, role model. Nelson Mandela is fighting for equal rights for South Africans. And Max, have we got one more in there as well?
We've got teamwork, resilience and determination for Mo Salah. Absolutely.
I follow that.
Oh, hang on a second. We got one for Donald Trump. I was trying to think of strengths for Trump, but I was struggling. But we've got charismatic, determination and communicator for Trump.
Yeah, you can't deny it. He's certainly, you know, he must have something because lots of people voted for him.
The question here, I'm thinking though, are these strengths? Because I think there's about 60 defined strengths out there. It's just whether or not these are all strengths, I suppose. I don't know yet. I'm not sure. Stormzy, here we go from Amina. I think I probably pronounced that wrong. Talented, confident and thoughtful. Scholarship for youth. Stormzy, of course, who has that scholarship for people from, I think deprived backgrounds in London who want to apply to university. I think he funds that. He's an ex-Harris pupil, of course. We work with their school. Stormzy giving back to young people, absolutely. Well done, guys. Cool.
Okay, so we've got things like offering a legacy, confidence, trustworthiness, passionate, a role model, teamwork, resilience, charismatic, a communicator, thoughtful, giving back. Now, it doesn't apply to all of them, but certainly those are the sort of things that actually you could probably apply to each of them. Some of them more than others, she says, very politically. But, there's certainly, if you look at Liv, yeah, she wants to leave a legacy. She's very much into social responsibility as a company. She's obviously got confidence. She's got to be trustworthy. She deals with all of our water. There's got to be a high level of trust there. She's passionate about what she does. She's a great role model for women in industry. Teamwork, you know, we all have teams. She's put in lots of ideas for how we work better as a team. Resilience, we have a lot of emergencies, you know, we have droughts, we have floods, we have all those sort of things that affect us. So you've got to have a lot of resilience. Charismatic, a communicator. So all of these things, you know, for a strength, for a leader, very important, but they're very important for us to have. We might not have all of them, and that's why we aren't President of the United States, or, you know, leader of South Africa, or a CEO of a company, but we can build on our strengths to make ourselves better people and to make ourselves more valuable to a company that we work for. So it's easy to see these strengths in these people because they're big people, but everybody has strengths. And I really want to impress that upon you, because I know that a lot of young people find it quite hard to think of what their strengths might be. And that's one of the things I want to get across to you today. So if we go on to the next slide and one after that. Okay, so the reason that we're going to do this slide is because people find it difficult to think of strengths for themselves. So I just want you to think of your best friend, or somebody in your family, or somebody, I don't know, if you go to a sports club, just think of one person. Okay, have you got that one person in your mind? Right, you've got 1 minute, and I want you to write 3 of their strengths down. Just off the top of your head.
3 strengths.
3 strengths, things they're good at. I'm going to do it for Katie.
There we go. I've done mine.
Okay. Right then.
And Max, just back to your point, right? Because we're brought up often in school, and guys, I won't actually change the mission, sorry, but I always got taught about competency-based questions, like tell me about a time when you've done this, shown leadership, shown confidence, shown, you know, teamwork. And sometimes as young people, particularly when we're locked in our flats, we don't have the opportunity to actually get out there and show, and there's no work experience opportunities, etc. Whereas strengths is actually something that we can look at very differently, and it's more inclusive in a way, because it's about you and this exercise that you're taking us through. It's less about what you don't have and more about what you do have, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to get that across, is the fact that these are things that are within you rather than external to you.
Fine.
Okay, so Chris, first of all, what are the 3 strengths?
So I've got hardworking, trustworthy, and creative.
And who's that?
Max.
And mine for Katie are positive, communicates well, and passionate. Okay. Max, can you give us something from one of the people there?
Absolutely. We've got here trustworthy, understanding, approachable, organized, creative, and punctual. We've got leadership, forgiveness, and teamwork. Can I also relate back to something you said earlier, Max? It's interesting because I run sessions in schools with students, and this is the thing that you're absolutely right, that they really struggle with. It's very easy for them to identify strengths in other people, but when they look at themselves trying to identify their own strengths, it becomes a lot more difficult. And this is a good way of breaking it down. So it's really, really valuable to understand what your strengths are. So think about this, guys. Those that were with us last week, we talked about strengths in job descriptions. When you pick them out, now you're going to be able to start to relate those back to your own strengths and how you can then reference them. So make sure you make that link.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just laughing because Katie's been moved to an attendee, because I'm going to ask Katie about hers. So amazing. I gave you, a minute to come up with 3 things. And as Max was saying, it's so easy. You come up with 3 things, and I could think of 3 things for somebody else like that. Just so easy, because you know them, you like them, you know all of their good points. It's just really easy. Why is it that we find it so hard to do the same for ourselves? What is it about us that we're so modest that we can't see it? So one of the things that, if you can bear to do it, if you can bear to have that feedback is ask your best friend, well, what are my strengths? That's a really good thing to say, or ask a parent or a coach at a sports club, because you know that'll give you some idea. But I'm also, when we move on, don't be modest. Really think about it. Well, what would other people say about you?
Max, just quickly on that, because sometimes we're a little bit, you know, in my culture and heritage, you know, a bit British in the sense that all good people want to say that we're good at something, whereas if you're American or Australian, that you can't shut them up about maybe saying how good they are. I'm stereotyping there, but sorry to any Americans or Aussies, I was joking. But what about, for example, let's say we don't have that friend who says it, or we don't want to do that. You know, but if we did the strengths profile, we could look at it objectively by going through an interview and be like, well, look, my strengths profile told me that I'm driven. I'm applying for this job because we need to hit sales numbers. You know, you want more from your staff, and you need proactivity, and I'm a self-starter. So actually, I'm just looking at the science. I'm driven. That's what the maths tells me. That's why I'm applying for the job. And that's not even being confident. I'm just telling them the facts, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Again, I mean, you know, yes, I cannot iterate enough. You must do that strengths profile. It's free. Just do it. It's a very interesting process to go through. Yeah, and things like, you know, oh, I don't do anything. I haven't got any strengths. Well, you know, do you look after your siblings? Yes, you do. So somebody must think that you're trustworthy. Somebody must think that you care. So there's two things. You've got two strengths already. You know, it's not, you don't have to have, sometimes people see strengths and they think, oh, well, what I've got to have done is I've got to have, you know, raised £1 million, or I've got to have worked at a school for the disabled for the last 5 years, or I've got to have done something amazing. But actually you don't. You can just do small things that are part of your everyday life, and these strengths are shown within it. So here you go. So strengths that employers look for. This isn't an exhaustive list. I have very cleverly hidden the 4 values that are the values of Severn Trent in there, and I'll reveal them to you later. But these are the things that are in there. I mean, humour is one that comes up on the profile. You might have that as a strength. Initiative, positivity, willingness to learn. I tell you what, if you are willing to learn, huge strength that an employer will look for. So that's not saying you know it already. That's saying you are willing to have a go, do a bit of work, maybe outside of the actual 9 to 5, and doing a bit of willingness to learn, you know. Or if you don't know stuff, what you want to do is on the job, you want to find out how to do things. Having imagination are really good, even if it's problem solving. Imagination and problem solving go together. Reliability, you know, just turning up each day, great, you know, really important. So
Meg,
all of these things, yeah.
And so as an employer, you look at CVs, and you're the other side of the desk where we're trying to get into a company. You know, for example, I turned up, you know, 95% at school. Does that actually count for something then in the working world?
Yeah, of course it does.
Yep.
You know, of course it does. Yeah, it shows that you're reliable. It shows that you're wanting to turn up. It shows that you've got that eagerness to be there. So, you know, and maybe you've turned up when you haven't felt very eager to be there either, but you've done it anyway.
But the
skill is, we all have days like that.
Yeah, and the skill is linking these experiences that we've got in life back into that interview scenario, isn't it? So, for example, like you were saying, there's that reliability. Using keywords like that to convince you as the interviewer that I'm reliable. It says in the job description you want reliability. It says you need trustworthy. Guess what? I'm 100% attendee, and I look after my gran at the weekend, and I'm left alone to do that. Whatever that might be, we can come up with examples, can't we?
Absolutely.
I will add to that, Mags. So not proud to, sorry to interrupt. I'm not proud to admit it, but my attendance at school did hit 38%, which is absolutely terrible. But it's just because school wasn't for me. So if your attendance isn't that high, don't be disheartened, because my school attendance was terrible, but you see me now. My school attendance was was terrible, but in all my part-time jobs, I was had such good commitment to them. So it was more about school academics, not for me, but the more, I don't know, I just enjoyed working more, probably because I was earning money, but but yeah, don't be disheartened if school's not for you and your attendance isn't great, because mine wasn't, and I've ended up where I am.
I know, but the point is, Katie, what you'd say is that your attendance at your part-time jobs was really good. You just wouldn't mention your school one.
Yeah, I wouldn't mention school.
You know, you've got to, you know, you've got to work it to your advantage there, haven't you?
Katie, just what we're on, I think that's so important that you said that. Well done, because you're right. Like, did you know your strengths, you know, back in the day, like when you were going through school? Because I definitely didn't.
No, I don't think I did. And when you look back, I think to myself, like, you get a lot of grief from schools sometimes, you know, like, oh, your attendance is shocking and stuff. And you think back and you think, oh God, I wasn't very good in school. But actually looking back on it now, as who I am as a person now, I think, yeah, my attendance at school wasn't great, but I worked so bloody hard outside of school at gaining just valuable skills, because I worked at Morrison's for a while, and then stereotypically they say that's not a great job, but it was. I had the best experience, met so many people, dealt with, it was in the pandemic as well, so I dealt with some bright customers as you can imagine. But yeah, you look back and you think, actually, you was developing all these skills, but you just didn't realize it at the time. So you do have to congratulate yourself on what you have achieved, even though it don't feel like it in the moment.
That's awesome. Thanks, Katie.
The other thing I would say is that our 4 values that are in there are courage, care, curiosity, and pride. It is worthwhile. I've sort of thrown them in there. I haven't highlighted them or anything, but I've put them in because if you are going to work for a company, it's a really good idea to find out what their values are, because you are almost inevitably going to be asked about it. So if you can come up with an example of each of their values, something that you've done that illustrates it, then they will be so impressed. And I'm saying this with the knowledge that my daughter has actually gone for a job today. She's in her early 20s. She's gone for a job today. And I said to her, you must do this. And she has been asked, you know, and they were really impressed because she took the time to go onto the website to look at what the company's sort of, what do they call it? We call it our values. Some people call it something else, Chris. Any ideas? Somebody help me out. Mission statement.
Their values and values as well. But Mags, you're making a really important point, because the students should be making the connection to last week, because this is that kind of stuff we covered on the job descriptions and what you need to look out for and what you need to pick out, because those are the things that what you're now saying, Mags, is connecting one to the other, that once you get into the interview, you're going to be asked to prove those. And listen as well, guys, to what Katie said, because the strengths that she had were visible in one scenario, maybe not in the other, because the other scenario wasn't right for her, but the working scenario was. And when you are talking about your strengths, it is your chance to be potentially a little bit arrogant and talk yourselves up, because it is you, it is your strengths. They are there within you, and you need to identify them. This is what it's going to help you do, to identify them so that you can talk about them. And remember, when you go to an interview, like we talked about last week and like we're talking this week, when you get there, you are not going to match everything perfectly. Okay, you're not going to match everything. You're not going to match every strength, because that's impossible. But also, from the other side of the table, those recruiters are looking at you as an individual, because you are unique. You will have different strengths to other people. So don't think about the strengths that they're looking for or what you think they want to see in you. Show them who you are and what your strengths are and how you display them. And then let them make the decision as to whether you are right for their company or not, because that's a better place to be than try to make yourself fit for what you think they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And just to link quickly, Mags, into what you just said there about linking back to values. So, for example, I would be doing research on Severn Trent if I was applying for them. I'd be looking at what they're doing. I'd find out maybe about your green energy roles and what you do for the green economy and looking after the planet. And then, again, one of my strengths on my profile is moral compass. So it could be, Danny said this last week at the co-op. He joined them because they're not just a commercial giant. They actually have, they care about their members, and they care about the community as well. So I could link that in by saying, look, one of my strengths is my moral compass. The definition here is, the difference between right and wrong. You have learned to consider your morals and values when you need to do so. And again, that links back into what you're doing as a company, because I researched on your CSR initiatives. You're doing amazing things in terms of the green economy and looking after our planet. Again, would that type of thing be like,
exactly. Yeah, it shows that somebody's actually taken the time to read the website, and if they're saying something like, my ethos matches your ethos.
Yeah, okay.
I'm really into the fact that you're going in for electric vans. That really makes me feel comfortable with you as a company. That kind of thing will make any interviewers little light bulbs light up. I'll be very, very happy. And the other thing I would say, is that, they're your strengths. Use the word I. Don't say, oh, we did this, or, when we were a team, you say, I care about the environment, or I take responsibility for this, because it's a very powerful tool, that using the word I. It's your strength. Take ownership of it and be proud of it. I know, as you said, Chris, it's kind of, we don't also sort of feel to say, oh yes, look at me, and we don't like blowing our own trumpet, but I'm afraid that is what you're there to do. There's an employer who's got a job, and they want to fill it with somebody really good. So if you don't tell them that you're really good, they're not going to know, because they don't know you. So you do have to, you don't have to go in and be boastful, but you do have to go in and tell them, I do this, I care about this, I am responsible for, so that they know about it. So what's the next one? What's the next slide after this? Okay. Your strengths. So this is really something that I'm not going to give you time to do this now, because you can do this when you're at home, but this is what you need to think about. So what you think are your key strengths. So one thing is definitely fill in that Capfinity form. It will speed you on your way to find your strengths. You can then, when you look at what they've come up with, think about, well, where do you exhibit these strengths? What have you done that has shown them? So one of my key strengths is that I am good at nurturing. One of my good things is that I nurture people. So I make sure that people are all right. I'm kind of aware of people within the team if there's a problem. So, I have to think, right, let me think of a time when I have shown this, because I'm quite a good person to have in a team, because I do all of that sort of, making sure everybody's okay.
So,
there you go. Thanks, Katie. So, that's something that I can put in, and I can say, this is what I do, this is what I'm good at. So if there's as Chris was saying, if there's something that says, requires really good teamwork, I can say, one of my strengths is nurturing. This is what I do when I'm in a team. I exhibit these behaviours. Ta-da. As Chris says, I'm not sort of going, oh, look at this, I'm marvellous. I'm just saying, this is a fact. This is one of my strengths. But you do have to have something to back that up, because they will be expecting that. It's very easy just to say, oh, I'm very responsible, I work hard. But that doesn't have any backup to it. You do have to have something that you back it up with. And again, it doesn't have to be amazing. It doesn't have to be, oh, I ran the school shop for 3 years. It can be, I'm really resilient. I play my computer game. I didn't do it very well at first, but I worked out how to get onto the next level, and I've now achieved whatever level it is. So what I do is I'm resilient. I go back, I work out where I've gone wrong, I problem solve, and I achieve.
Katie, we're going to come to you later on for some of the examples you use to get your job, by the way. So.
Remember.
So find out your strengths. find out how you demonstrated them. Remember to use the I word. And then obviously there are some things that you're not going to be as good at. One of mine is I'm not very good at talking and persuading people. It's not my greatest strength. I just kind of tell people things and then hope that they agree with me. So that's something that I still need to develop, and look how old I am. So, you know, you constantly are always working on it. So, yeah, so there'll be strengths that you need to develop more. And I think the next one, we're going to go on to Katie, because she's going to talk about her journey into getting an apprenticeship and sort of some of the strengths, some of the things she had to overcome and what strengths she had to show.
Let's go next.
Sorry, was there a question?
No, I don't think there was immediately. No, I don't think so. Unless you saw one, Max, was there one?
No,
Max?
no questions.
Okay.
Cool. Katie.
Hi everybody. So I've worked at Severn Trent since September last year. I'm 20 years old and I do a level 5 learning and development apprenticeship. So I work within HR. I'm in Mags's team for 9 months, and then I go over to a team called the Academy, which is a brand new training building for upskilling and like training apprentices and graduates, and basically any employee that wants to gain a new skill. And then hopefully after 18 months, get a job back with Mags. can't work without her. So it's 80% on the job training and 20% off the job training. So the 20% is it's like monthly, or there's a couple monthly workshops with my training provider, and they can range from like 9:30 till 1:30, which is a half day, or 9:30 till 4:30, which is a full day one, but they're not that frequent. It's quite informal, obviously all online. They make it really interactive, so it doesn't feel like you're at school in like a classroom environment. They make. I
was going to say, Katie, how does this match with your not particularly liking school?
Yeah, so it's quite a small group, so it's not like you can just turn on and then like put yourself on mute and go back to sleep. There's that. It's really quite small. They're always asking you questions, keeping you going, like engaging in the conversation, which I think I like a lot more than being in like a big environment where it's less personal. So yeah, that's how it fits in with my lack of academic love. Trying to think what else I've got to say.
I was going to say,
could you talk? Sorry, Chris, you ask her a question. I know her background.
I was going to say, Katie, like obviously lockdown is pretty bleak at the moment, and you know, the news keeps telling us to be depressed, I suppose. You know, what would you be doing if you were sort of a young person looking for a job at the moment? Like, how would you be tackling it? Because it sounds like you were pretty proactive, getting part-time jobs and all that type of thing.
Yeah, so I think you've got to be actively searching. I know from my personal experience coming into the new talent team, a lot more focus on social media for advertising and stuff now. So making sure you just keep checking what's going on, and use the pandemic in an advantage, if that makes sense. So I worked in a restaurant. Obviously that got closed because of the pandemic. So then I thought, where's open? Supermarkets. So I went to Morrison's, my local one, because I needed something to do. I thought, I can't sit around for ages. I can't just go insane. So yeah, just stay active, stay looking, and I think that the job that's meant for you will come to you.
Cool. I've got a couple of questions here. Ibad, good question for Katie there. So what are your strengths and how did it help you get into Severn Trent?
Oh gosh, Mags, you know I'm not very good at answering things like this. I don't know what my strengths are.
What would you say, maybe looking back and reflecting now on what your strengths are, and it must have helped you at interview?
I think resilience is one of my strengths. So I had to retake my A-levels. So that put me a year behind my friends and feeling a bit just behind. But I thought, you know what, I'm not just going to drop out because I've done 2 years. I might as well just do another year. Fortunately, it was cut down to like so much less than a year, and I got my exams based off like predicted grades and stuff. So I suppose that was a benefit to having to retake the year. What was I saying?
Resilience then, yeah, that probably helped you at your interview.
Yeah, resilience, definitely proving that in different conditions I can survive and thrive, probably. I'm quite good at making the best out of a bad situation. I think another strength, I suppose I'd say I'm probably quite kind. I think I portrayed that in my interview. Like, I like working with people. I like to make them like to boost other people and push other people to do their best as well. Don't want to see anybody fall behind. And I think that's quite an important one. Showing that you can help out people where needed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say also you're very positive, Katie.
Yeah, I am quite positive. We have this thing called a comm cell, which is where we get together. Is it every 2 weeks, Mags?
Yeah, it's short for communication.
Yeah, and then we you have like various different documents that you fill in, and one of them is red, amber, green. And since starting, I've been green every week, haven't I, Mags?
Yeah, she has. She loves it. Yeah, it's very positive. Even when, you know, things aren't so great, Katie will always find something positive to say, to do.
And no, that's great, Katie. Max, just one from me before maybe handing over to you. Just got a difficult one here, Mags, for us. So okay. What is the difference between strengths and talent? How would you define this? Any ideas there?
Right, difference between strengths and talent.
Max, open to you as well if you've got anything.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Well,
talent is a skill, isn't it? Talent is like a skill. It's something that it's like, I would say, you know, like being able to sing or draw, or, you know, it's an actual skill.
Do you know what?
Whereas a strength is something that's more tenuous. It's more, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, you can't touch a strength, can you? You know, like positivity, but you can, you know, with drawing, it's an actual thing. I think that's the difference between a talent. Like you could be a talented footballer, but your strength might be in setting up goals for other people.
Let me have a quick go before Max. I'd say, you know, talent you're born with, and the strengths you've got to work on and develop. You know,
yes.
you know, you could be the hardest working person in the room, but have the least amount of talent. Therefore, you're not going to be the professional football player. However, that hard work is going to mean that you're going to have an amazing career in a commercial company, for example.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Max, anything to add on that? Good question.
Yeah, it's a controversial one, actually, because I think also with talent, if you were to take the example of Mo Salah off that previous screen, he is an amazing footballer. That's his talent. His talent lies within his abilities with the football, but his strengths lie within his teamwork, his ability to process the information, and his attitude towards competition, which means in terms of training, reliability, to be able to turn up and put the work in all the time, his determination to be the best. Those are the strengths. The talent lies within his feet, but the hard work that he puts in and the determination also makes his talent better. Because you can have talent, but if you don't have those strengths, your talent is not going to take you very far. We've seen many sports people who are very talented who don't go far because they don't put the hard work in. So their strengths lie elsewhere. But then also, if you were to look at certain of those people, you look at Nelson Mandela, humble, but he was a leader. He managed to unite people. He managed to unite, you know, races that got rid of apartheid in South Africa. So strengths lie in different areas. They are human qualities that can be worked on, because you can make your weaknesses stronger, and they're characteristics that you have within you. Whereas talent is more perhaps around creativeness or artistic side of things. But but strengths that everybody has different strengths. I said that earlier, we're all unique. And the beauty of having different strengths, like Chris and I, we're very different, but we're also very similar. But the difference between us means that we work well together, you know, and that's the same in any workplace. That's why it's important to know your strengths. It's important to identify your own strengths, because then you'll see you can identify what you're maybe not so good at, and you can work on it to make it better.
I like it, Max. I've got a couple more questions for Katie, if that's okay. I know we're
yes, question Katie.
We're getting time poor. We will finish at 4, guys, we promise. But Katie, I guess, did you start then in September? You said, yeah. Okay, so you're a success story from the pandemic, which I think is great. But someone's just asked here, you started in September last year. How has COVID helped / affected you?
So I started when the restrictions were slightly eased, so we could go into the office. We were on rotation, so 2 days you'd be in the office, the other 3 days you'd be working from home. Severn Trent were really good in the fact that they made sure that all new apprentices that were working in the office could be in every day for the first 4 weeks. So that allowed us to, whilst the team was rotating, you were there the whole way through, so it allowed you to meet them all and like socialize and meet them as best as you possibly could under the circumstances. And then so I was isolating in December and then broke up for Christmas, and then obviously went into a lockdown. So I've not been in the office for over 2 months now, which is weird. I've just been around my family for 2 months locked inside. But I won't lie, it has been really challenging at times, and have had to come to Mags being like, I'm losing my mind a bit here. But I think, and Severn Trent was so supportive, really good. We always make sure we speak as a team, speak one-to-one, always interacting, not just to talk about work, to talk about how we're feeling, how we're getting on, and everybody's really open and honest. But I think I realised that I'm never going to get this opportunity again where I am working from home. Because I'm from Derby and I work in Coventry, so obviously quite a long commute. So I'm never going to be in the position where I have this much freedom and also like energy to put the most into my work, because roll out of bed, walk 2 meters to my desk instead of the long commute. So I think it has been challenging at times, and I've really felt it, like not having the social interactions and stuff. But I've flipped it to try and think of it in a positive way as possible, which I found really helped me. And once you start noticing the good things, or picking them out, you start thinking, actually, no, this isn't that bad. Like, it's a horrible situation, but personally, I can pull through this and still complete really good work from home. So picking out the benefits instead of obsessing over the negatives has benefited massively in my personal life and definitely working.
And I think there is a perfect example of resilience, right? I think what Katie has just displayed to us is what resilience is about, and having it, because you made some valuable points in there. Somebody has asked as well, what is a way we can identify our strengths? And what I would say is there's a few ways you can identify your strengths. Once you get the link to your strength profile from Capfinity, fill it out, do the survey, but then when you get the results back, take your time to read it and go through it and understand what your strengths are, understand what your opportunities are, where you can improve and how, and understand what you bring to the table. Okay. But also look at the examples that we've had on today's session. Maybe take some time to sit down and think about strengths in other people and how you identify it in other people. Then look at yourself and see if you can identify those in you, or if yours are different. Or maybe ask somebody, what are my strengths? What am I good at? Maybe it's one of your classmates or somebody you used to work with or go to college with. What am I good at? What would you say are my strengths? Because remember, people will see you differently to the way you see yourself. So use that to your advantage. With everything, Chris, we always talk about this, don't we? Preparation is key. Always prepare yourself. If you're going for an interview, do your preparation. If you've got to write a CV, do your preparation. Mags and Katie have shared so much valuable information today about what they use in their businesses and what they look for. Your preparation is turning up to these sessions, digesting the information and putting it into action. And with that, what I will say is that next week we are looking at CVs with a national grid, and this will lead on from what we've talked about today. Mags and Katie have talked to you about strengths. Okay, so now how are you going to talk about those strengths? Well, you've got to put it on your CV now, but now you should be able to identify them. Let's go and put it on a CV. I've put the link in the chat box to the ticket for next week's session, and I'm just about to share a link to a little survey for us, just to give us some information and feedback about today. I took a little bit more airtime than I should have done there, Chris. So any final words?
No, don't get silly. Just one more really quick question for Katie, then I'll hand back to Mags to close. But Katie, there's 42% of people in this session today looking to do an apprenticeship. Why should they do an apprenticeship in your opinion?
I think you get the best skills. Instead of learning about how to do a job, why not just do it and get the qualification as well as doing the job, and added bonus, money. I just think it's the perfect way to learn. Like, it's so different from my friends being at uni, seeing the comparison. It's cliche, but you are earning while you're learning, and most importantly, gaining that experience that other people won't get.
Fantastic, great answer, Katie. Really concise. And Mags, any sort of summarising views from you? I think it's been a great session, and the content from both of you guys has been fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I would just remember, so I'm just repeating what Max said, is if you ask other people what your strengths are, they will come up with it like that. So if you can bear to, ask your friends, ask your parents. I know your parents are going to say lots of lovely things about you because they're bound to, but they are going to see your strengths. If you can bear to do that and make yourself a little bit vulnerable, ask them to do that. If you can't, then do everybody do that Capfinity strengths profile. It's really helpful. And then just, think about yourself, think about what you do, and think about some examples. And you are so far along the path to having some really good ideas for your CV.
Fantastic, Mags. Thank you so much. And Mags, what we will do, we'll send out that strengths profile to all the students, but also the Severn Trent roles as well, and the links to that, because I was looking on the website, green energy, non-office based roles, operational apprenticeships, plus business and commercial apprenticeships. So you can apply for these roles before March, by the way, and we'll give you the deadline, and then you can actually end up being another Katie, hopefully, and smashing it at Severn Trent. Max, any takeaways from the session from you today?
Yeah,
no,
I think...
sorry, I thought it was Mags, not Max. We must have different names. I'll change my name before the next session.
My bad.
Well, you can go with my real name if you want, Chris, which is Massimiliano. But what I would say is that we've repeated this over the session many times, is you've got to take the time to understand what your strengths are, but don't just understand what your strengths are. Understand how you can showcase what they are. What examples do you have to show them? But also understand where you are not so strong, because that will help you understand you as an individual and what you bring to a company or a role that you might be applying for, because you could be looking at apprenticeships at Severn Trent and thinking, well, which one do I want to do? But understanding your strengths and how they align with that is what's going to help you make the right decision for your career in the future.
Fantastic. Just final point for me is we looked at strengths, which is defined as something you do well and you enjoy doing. We spoke about values in terms of you could turn up to an interview saying my ethos matches your ethos. I thought that was a really good line from Mags today. And again, speaking to Katie there, who I think her positivity shone through this session in terms of picking out the good things and the benefits and not being lackluster and down about COVID. It's all about how your attitude is towards that. So yeah, thank you very much for all your messaging, guys. It's been really useful and great to be part of our series. So thank you to Severn Trent, Mags and Katie. Cheers, guys.
My pleasure.
Cheers. See you next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.